Mr. Syvret, you've been released now for around about 36 hours or so from a 2-month prison sentence. We interviewed you yesterday. How have you spent your time?
Well, just catching up on my own, personal arrangements, opening a mountain of bills, that kind of thing, answering cards, people's telephone calls and emails, just getting settled back into the routine of being free and, being out running, that kind of thing, just, enjoying, a relaxing period of time.
Yesterday we done the interview and the impression might have come across of the interview that you're not really taking this very seriously. Well, the imprisonment and the rest of it and everything that goes with it. Are you taking this seriously?
Well, the answer to that question is twofold. I mean, of course, the underlying issues are of the utmost seriousness, but equally, on the other hand, you're quite right. I'm not taking it seriously. I mean, these people, these Jersey establishment figures who have done these kind of things to me, this politicised prosecution system, biased judges who know interested parties and won't say who they are and who make decisions that are not compatible with established case law. One can't help but laugh at these people, and what else can you do? These are people who are operating what is supposedly a functioning democracy in the 21st century, but are operating it as a feudal society and using the law as a tool of political oppression. And it's quite ridiculous. And these people are laughable, and you couldn't do anything other than treat them with the contempt they deserve. But that said, the underlying issues are of the utmost seriousness, and one of the reasons why I have to do this, I have to resist these clowns, is because they're making an example of me. I mean, I became the most prominent political independent journalist in Jersey using the internet, as indeed a lot of other dissidents and campaigners have done around the world. And of course, in those kind of jurisdictions, we see that the price people often pay is getting shot. Here in Jersey, fortunately, things aren't that extreme, of course, but here, nevertheless, I'm able to be imprisoned and maliciously prosecuted and things of that nature. And they're doing this to me because they have to make an example of me in order to frighten other independent journalists so that they will try to stop the internet becoming the great conduit of information and truth in Jersey, as it has become in many other jurisdictions around the world. And if they're allowed to succeed in oppressing me and intimidating me, then they will have established all of these precedents. And then they will be onto you, they'll be onto other bloggers, they'll be onto people that run Facebook pages, people who use Twitter. Once the Jersey establishment is allowed to basically gain, effectively, criminal control over what people are allowed to say on the internet, then they will have oppressed our society even more than it is. So I have to resist it.
To get this straight, so what's happening here is the data protection, because I thought this charge was dropped. But the data protection want you to register as a blogger with data protection. So what are the implications of that for the viewers and the readers? Does that mean the data protection people can come around and snatch your computer and stuff like that? I'm a little bit confused.
Well, interestingly, even the first appeal verdict in court, which, unsurprisingly went against me, and even though there's no precedent or case law for their decision, but even that judgment had to agree with me in that publishing political opinions, publishing critical journalistic remarks on a website does not in fact constitute handling personal data, which of course wholly undermined the argument that the Data Protection Commissioner and the Attorney General had pursued against me for several years. So given that part of the judgment, when I received subsequently yet further threats from the Data Protection Commissioner that I was going to be prosecuted unless I basically surrendered my website under effectively state criminal control, I asked her, I said, well, look, the judgment actually says this and has said that you are wrong in your interpretation of personal data. Now, can you please explain to me then why you see yourself still able to make these demands of me when the judgment has determined that your assessment of what constitutes personal data is incorrect? Now, I had no answer from the Data Protection Commissioner to that email, but nevertheless, since then, I've still received further threats of prosecution unless I register under the data protection law.
So they've ignored the judgment. Is this what they've ignored the judgment?
They've ignored that part of the judgment that didn't suit them. Of course, the parts of the judgment that did suit them, they've used against me to put me in prison. The part of the judgment that didn't suit them, they've simply ignored. So they have no legal basis for actually enforcing data protection registration on people that run websites, people that do independent political writing like me. And the great danger is that if I allow them to intimidate and silence me, then they will be on to anyone that runs a Facebook page, a blog site, whatever it may be. And of course, the obvious problem in Jersey is that, as we've seen throughout the last few years, is that these laws don't get enforced against those people who are allied to or are a part of the Jersey oligarchy. The data protection law and indeed other laws are only enforced against people that are deemed enemies of the state, like me, like you, like others, whereas we have people that are obviously publishing stolen data, straightforwardly criminally obtained data, data of no public interest merit whatsoever. There have been many complaints made to the Attorney General, the Police, the Data Protection Commissioner about these establishment people acting in this way, and no action is taken against them at all. So not only is there grave danger that we would sleepwalk into letting the Jersey oligarchy develop this tool by which they can criminalise anyone who criticises the government, where also we would be letting them effectively run the law in a very biased way, which is why we have to resist in the interests of freedom and free speech.
Frightening stuff, frightening stuff. So you've had a very, very busy 2011. How would you sum up 2011?
It's pretty mundane, actually, I would say, in terms of comparing it to political struggles anywhere. It's the same kind of thing that we see dissidents have had to do and have had to go through around the world. You have to resist and you have to fight entrenched oligarchies, entrenched power groupings. It's the same kind of thing as you see people have had to do in Egypt, in Libya, in other countries around the world where they've had utterly corrupt, entrenched regimes. Now, obviously, those cases are more difficult because there people get shot for resisting the government and for wanting to exercise their freedom, their democratic freedoms and their right to free speech. That, so far at least, hasn't happened to me here in Jersey. But again, the Jersey authorities really don't have to resort to those kind of utterly extremist measures because they've politically captured the prosecution system. They have politically captured the judiciary. So they are all meaningful power in the island, so they can just oppress people like me. And when you kind of look actually at the history of political struggle for freedom, the kind of things that have happened in 2010 and 2011 are unsurprising, really. It's kind of an inevitability when any establishment starts to face its inevitable downfall, as the Jersey establishment is doing. I mean, this is the 21st century. We have the internet now. It's going to be 2012. You know, there are all kinds of things going on in the world. The Jersey oligarchy has effectively reached the end of the road. You know, this crypto-feudal society has had its day. But there's always that ramping up of resistance to the loss of power that we see on the part of the establishment. And this happens again in other jurisdictions around the world. So the last couple of years have been hard, but not surprising, really. And probably the next couple of years will be the same. In 2012, I expect fully to be subjected to further various criminal charges. They will clearly carry on prosecuting me and probably sending me to prison again until I did one of two things. Either they want to drive me out of Jersey, out of my home island completely, or they want to silence me. They want to effectively intimidate me.
Metaphorically shoot you.
Metaphorically, effectively, they want to silence me. They want to silence me by corruptly abusing the criminal law to stop me from speaking out about wrongdoing and wrong acts. And they're clearly going to carry on doing that. So I fully expect to be jailed again, you know, in 2012, and, you know, probably this will carry on happening until we succeed in making the UK authorities meet their actual duties and obligations and clean up the Jersey oligarchy.